Howdy y'all, this is A.R. Cavley. Welcome back to my channel and the further adventures of Lennox and Zell. Last time when we left off, they had just, with their new horse, left the castle of the nobleman, to whom they tried to return it to the estates, and they left with a horse and a gold crown and some silver for their troubles. So all told, hex number one, pretty good deal for them. Okay, I went and updated my cards, my deck of cards. I purchased the PDF off of Drive-Thru RPG just so I could get the images, and made the initiative cards and the combat deck cards. I'm not exactly sure how often I'll use them. I will give them a try just because they seem kind of interesting. One thing I did though is I've got a combat deck for me, and this option allows me to actually choose them. I can actually pick them instead of having to wait for, just cycle through the one I want. And for the NPC deck, I kind of stacked it, because if there's 7 cards and one is attack and one is defend, there's a pretty good chance you're going to draw some kind of card that is not going to be helpful or realistic. You'll be fighting some orc who every turn prepares and then waits, or prepares then defends, or hinders and then moves. So when obviously the main action, even with the other stuff sprinkled in, is going to be attacking and defending. So what I did to address that is I added, I think there's 4 attack cards in there and 3 or 4 defender cards. So I can select my card, and then I can randomly pick the NPC action. And then I put a Forbidden Lands back on that one. And we'll just shuffle those guys and get down to business. I also have decided to, instead of trying to squeeze that little PDF on there, I decided to put it as a tab in my browser, because as I was watching the last video and other videos I've done, it's hard to read that little thing, and it sometimes covers up interesting things. And I like to keep the PDF up there. I like to show it, 1, because I'm looking at it, and 2, for people who are following along. I know I've learned from playing solo games myself, and it can be helpful to see what they're talking about when you're watching somebody. So to get things started, we're going to do our journeying for 1. So in the morning, we shuffle the deck, and we use the experience points prompts to see about XP for the previous day. So did we participate in the game session? Yes. So we get 1 XP. We travel through at least 1 hex they hadn't visited before. Yes. Did you discover a new adventure site? We found a castle, but we didn't really adventure there, so I don't think so. Didn't defeat any monsters. Did you find a treasure, 1 gold or more? Now, it was part of an encounter, but we got a gold crown worth 3 gold pieces, so I'm going to say yes. Or 14 gold pieces, actually, so I'm going to say yes on that one. And we didn't activate the pride, suffer the dark secret, or suffer from our dark secret, risk our life for another PC. And I think in this, I may apply this one if the narration were to get him to say if his companion, because the companion's kind of a step above a PC, but I'll see what that happens. And I wouldn't say we did anything extraordinary. So 1, 2, 3 XP. 1, 2, yeah, 3. All right, so 3 XP. Guess it would help if I opened some character sheets. And they're still moving, so I mean, in order to spend your XP, you need to like rest or sleep anyway. But I think one day out might be a little early to be spending experience points yet. Where are they? They're on here somewhere. There's willpower. Oh, okay, experience. All right, so 3 experience. And then now we're just going to go to our procedure. All right, so 3 die 6 for weather using the table there. Let's see what the weather looks like. 1, 4, and 4. I think the one generally in these, the lower the better. I think what would kind of, or what I like to see when with weather generators is I kind of like the ones where they're a little closer tied to what the weather on the day before, the watch before was. Some of those, what do they call it? They're basically like weather hex crawls, where you move around so that you don't get quite as wild a swing. But I live in Tennessee, so we do get those weird swings, so it doesn't really bother me that much. And I'll admit that probably every state has those sayings and memes. You know, if you don't like the weather blank, then don't hang around for 10 minutes. So I know it was the same thing when I lived in Colorado, and so so it doesn't bother me all that much. So that's page 153. All right, the weather, page 153. All right, 1, 4, and 4. So no wind. That gives us a +1 to make camp today. 4 is no rain, and 4 is it's pleasant. So good traveling weather and good camping weather because there's no wind to blow our tent around. We're going to cross the river there. And if Zell fails his roll, then we'll just we might work that into the narration of why he failed his roll. So as we are exploring, he's going to make his Pathfinder roll for Lead the Way. And if anything happens, Lennox is still acting as scout. All right, so we have 1 success. That's good enough. Hex 1, no problem. And in our new hex procedure, that means that we draw a card. Remember, if it's red, it's the original, and if it's black, it's Book of Beasts, if we get one of these encounter types. If we get one. Shuffle our card. All right. Black 9, so that's going to be a Book of Beasts encounter. Let's do a D66. 3 and 4. That might actually be enough. Three and 4. We are... Are we on a lake? I don't think we're on a lake. We were down the river a ways. Quagmire marshlands. So I think we'll just go plains. 3 and a 4 plains. Encounter number 4. Garmar's Wall. A crumbling structure suddenly emerges from the terrain. It is the remains of a rampart from long ago, much higher than a well-fed ogre, quietly and mysteriously towering over the ancient landscape. Many of its stone blocks are partially eroded and covered with moss and vines. Scanning the long structure, you notice a number of gaping holes where the wall has collapsed, but also a few watchtowers rising above the rest of the rampart. Despite the ravages of time, it is clear that this was once a mighty fortification meant to keep the horrors of Ravenland at bay. All right, so that's interesting. So we've got a little site there. Might have to add that to the wall, or to the map. All right, so all that remains of this ancient wall is the 500-meter-long, partially collapsed section that rises from the terrain in front of the adventurers. However, in some places there is little left but the stone foundations, barely noticeable on the ground beneath thorns and tussocks of grass. The rampart's origin has been lost in antiquity, but a successful lore roll suggests that is probably the remains of Garmar's Wall, a dwarven wonder mentioned in the songs about the first Alder War between dwarves and Alderlanders. Okay, well, let's go ahead and we'll make a lore roll. Does he have lore? No, no skill at lore. And does... I don't think Zell does either. Nope. All right. Linux may know a little bit already about this since it is still only 2 hexes away, but maybe this isn't a hex that he often has traveled. Maybe he preferred to keep his recent peddling, his recent trade agreements south of the river, south of the lake, mostly among Alderlanders, which makes sense, which fits with what he told Lady Sif about only trusting few people that he knew. But we'll go ahead and we'll give a lore roll. Okay. Well, we will say then he has heard of this. I think this is Garmar's Wall. I didn't really travel this way very much, but it was It was a wall built by the dwarves in the Ancient War and the Alder War. Whoa. That's old. Yep. I never really wanted to come this way very often. Should we explore? Yeah. Why not? Let's check it out. I don't think we don't want to spend too much time though. It's just an old wall, but it's a piece of history, right? It doesn't look like there's any towers or dungeons or anything. Now, what he's going to do is but he is always looking out for traps. But a low wall like that, especially with places easily to pour out through, that's a good place for an ambush. So he's going to do a scouting roll and then get a +2 for his spyglass. His spyglass of sussing out the sussy. Okay, he doesn't see anything. So as they explore, he is taken a bit by surprise when, after a while of exploring the wall, and just as he's kind of getting bored with it, really, it's a wall. It's a piece of ancient history. But like a kid in a museum, he grows bored quickly from the old stones, just looking at stacked stones for a while. But just as he's getting ready to call them out, they run into the Dwarven chronicler Gromhilder Quartz. Now, as the GM, this fearless truth seeker from the Balderon clan is looking for the tomb of the dwarf chieftain Garmer Forebeard. According to Groomhilder's research, which she will happily brag about to anyone willing to listen, this legendary chieftain's tomb is brimming with gold artifacts and indestructible dwarven steel. She hates orcs and is suspicious of humans, which is good because he's going to be suspicious right back. But if the adventurers manage to gain her trust, she can show them her map, which indicates that the tomb is located next to the wall section in question. I guess I should maybe put a warning about spoilers on here. But her landmark is a specific tower, which according to the oldest records used to be the center point of the wall's dwarven fires, an ingenious system. After a quarter day, the adventurers dedicated to the task will find a symbol resembling the flame. So as they approach and are getting ready to leave, the horse, who's being led, they're using him mostly as a pack animal, nickers, and as he nickers, they hear a soft humming, which they had been hearing but didn't realize it as they're carefully scanning this wall, looking at the ruined, tumble-down towers, and they hear, "Who's that?" Drawing weapons as a female dwarven head pops up over a wall about 40 meters away. She looks at them, and they look at her, and she says, "I want no trouble. What are you doing here? Are you exploring Garmar's wall? Lennox looks over at Zell and says, I told you it was Garmer's wall. Who's Garmer? I told you some dwarf or something, okay? Some dwarf? He was the king. He fought the Alderlanders. He built this great wall. And somewhere nearby is his tomb. Is that what you're doing? Zell asks. Looking for a tomb? Are you going to rob the tomb of your ancestors? He is not my ancestor. I am a researcher. I am a chronicler. If I could find his tomb, I can chronicle and verify what I can find inside. Somewhere in the central tower, and she lifts up her book. Of course, they can't see what's in it. She lifts it up anyway, as if they can see it. There's a central tower, and it is the center of the Dwarven fires. It's a system of signal fires created by ancient stone singers. And they're certainly far more advanced than the primitive beacons used by the humans of the day, which is, of course, why they were able to act so well and so victoriously. Didn't the Alderlanders drive them back? That's not the point. Okay, well, good luck. Lennox is not interested in digging into tombs at this point, especially dwarves. He's not interested in listening to whatever raving lunatic story she's going to tell. This is a long wall. Would you be interested in helping? It's very important to my research. Look, Groomhilder, I got no problem with dwarves, but I don't care about your work. I've got my own work I need to be getting about. There's gold and artifacts, indestructible dwarven steel. I think the king would not be upset if maybe we helped ourselves to a little treasure for our efforts, especially you. Of course, as your friend says, we would not be full-on tomb raiding, but, you know, chroniclers have to eat too. Zell looks over at Lennox. I hear dwarven steel is very strong. We have a long journey. It might help us to find something. Yeah, you know, I've listened to people's stories about delving into deep places like this, and usually all they find is their death. And stories about great treasures, they're all horse crap, kid. Well, then why are we going on one? Be quiet, be quiet. But as Lennox begins to think about it, from what he can see, there's no dungeon. She's talking about a tower. Although she's talking about a tomb, so it might be something below the tower. And Zell is right. Especially now that they have a mount. Maybe grabbing a bag full of valuables might not be a bad idea. So is this tomb guarded by enchanted golems and deadly dwarven traps? If they are, I don't think it would still be working very well. This is an old wall, and even dwarven traps age. But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't work with you after all. I'm fine with that. You brought it up. Have a good time. Wait, wait, wait. She rubs uh the hair on her chin. Actually, let me verify that. Do female dwarves in this world, in Forbidden Lands, do they have beards and stuff too? Well, it didn't say specifically if it does or not. So I'll just go with at least this at least this dwarf woman has a thin a wispy type beard that she rubs. She looks them up and down again. All right, if you help me look, then I will share part of the treasure with you, and you will have my. Um, if any dwarves come or any dwarves give you a difficult time about the any artifacts that you may find or any treasures, then you can tell them that Grumhilder Quartz was here and gave us the permission. Gave you permission. Lennox looks around a final time, and nothing really looks very grim. It just looks like old rocks. All right. We'll take a look. So they kind of split up and scan different sections of the wall. He of Lennox keeps keeps Chauncey the horse with them because he doesn't want her to steal him. Because, well, she's a little dwarf and she doesn't have a horse, and their horse is nice. And everybody's out trying to thieve from him, and no one's going to get anything over on him, so he takes the horse with. So the first quarter day, we'll say it kind of wraps up since you normally move 2 hexes in the open on a quarter day. They got across the river, and after a quarter day, the adventurers dedicated to the task will find a symbol resembling a flame. Let's see. It says make a lore roll. We'll see if you can make another lore roll. Okay, so he makes a lore roll, probably from recognizing something in her book or a picture, maybe as she's shown um, as they're talking. So as they are walking along, after several hours, he's really getting bored, and he's starting to question agreeing to help her because now he's wasted another several hours of the day looking for some stupid old tomb that probably doesn't even exist. But he does find an old dwarven rune in a collapsed tower, or and what looks like the remains of a collapsed tower, which seems like it would fit the description. The old rune looks like dwarven for fire. What she had shown or described that it probably had on before they split up to work. And it has the, since it's part of a tower, near a tower, he believes that they've found what they're looking for. He whistles, and after waiting for a while, Zell says, "Why don't you let me take the horse and go get her?" He doesn't really, Lennox doesn't really want to risk the horse, but he's also getting bored, so he nods his head. Zell hops on to Chauncey, and about 15 minutes later comes back with Grunhilder holding on for dear life as Zell is showing off his horseman skills, riding through the gaps in the wall and jumping over low barricades and stuff, just because he's a horseman. He wants to do that. He lets her down, and Lennox just motions over to the symbol that they found. And without even looking at her book or anything, she drops her pack and says, "Yes, yes, yes." And she says, "Start to look around. Start to look around. If there's a burial chamber, it would be around here." And so they look around, and after a short time, they find a thorny wall of thickets, thorny thickets, thorny thickets, and she takes out an axe and she starts hacking and pulling them away. And behind that, she sees two massive boulders, but they're cut. And she says, it's here. This is his underground chamber. So they spend a little time hacking and chopping, getting the thickets completely out of the way so that they get a good view of these two boulders. And Lennox looks at her and says, "Well, those are pretty big." "Yep, let's just roll them out of the way." I mean, don't you have any like clever dwarf levers or something you can just find, or tell the rocks to move or something? She looks at him and says, "Not every dwarf is a stone singer. Thank you." "Sorry, look, those are heavy rocks. I can lift a smaller one." But they all get together, and with a successful might roll. Now, of course, if there's not a might roll, if they don't make the might roll, who knows what'll happen. So I think we'll make a single roll, and we'll say +2. I think both of them are in there. She's a dwarf, so she's probably strong enough to lend a helping hand. Might. Okay, so oh, he's I did not realize how strong he was. He's actually a strong dude. I guess that was from his time as a squire. Okay, well, cool. And we'll give him 2 bonus dice. Let's see. They don't really have any good excavating tools or anything. She might, but we'll just call that good. Did I roll melee? Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense. So 2 of the red dice would have canceled, but he made it anyway. So I'm just leave it like that. I just hit the wrong button, but he got 2 successes at least. So they spend they spend a while chipping and pulling and getting away, getting digging some dirt out of the way to be able to push and pull and try to roll the stones forward. And as they get together and they finally are at the last point, Lennox says, "All right, come on, right here." And the one stone shifts as the 3 of them are pushing it, and it starts to move forward. And as it moves forward just a little bit, it jolts forward and almost flying forward, and out from behind it comes a surly fire demon. The giant flaming demon flies out through the opening. And we'll just say this little rectangle here is the opening. And everyone stares, and he rolls his neck and stretches his arms, and flames shoot up from behind him and around him. They lick up from his fingertips, and he lets out a bellow that sprays fire and smoke and sulfurous gas into the air. He looks anger, confusion on his face, and he turns and he finally sees the 3. Now, of course, everyone has drew their weapons, but Lennox, he doesn't want a part of fighting no huge demon. There's a merchant and some kind of scholar and a hunter. There's no sorcerers, no heroic artifacts or anything that they have. And so, without dropping his sword, Lennox puts a hand on Zell's shoulder and kind of pulls him back. And he just kind of has his hands up, and he's getting ready to run. Somewhere the horse is nearby, probably tied off the map there. I couldn't find my horse token offhand, so I may have forgot to upload it. And the demon, he looks at them, but it says that his main goal is to get away from that place. So either there's something in the place, or he's been trapped in there so long that he fears, especially seeing a dwarf. Maybe he fears that dwarf has the ability to put him back in there. But he bellows again and shoots a spray of flames towards them, not far enough to actually get to them. And Lennox hops back a little farther. All right, let's use our oracles. Let's use our oracles to see what Groomhilder will do. All right, so I'm going to draw 2 theme cards just to see if it gives me any inspiration as to what she might do. 4 of clubs and a 7 of diamonds. So 4 of clubs, celebration, and 7 of diamonds, diligence. All right, so I don't see anything there that would necessarily lead me to think that she would suicidally try to, fight this demon. Any kind of, oh, well, we released it kind of mentality or anything like that. But she is a dwarf, and they are pretty pig-headed. So on a 6, I'm going to say that she is going to try to convince them to help her stop the demon, because obviously they've just released this fire demon. They don't, she doesn't, nobody wants the demon running around trying to, burn up, burn any place up. But Lennox, he has no reason to think that they would even stand a chance against this fire demon. So only on a 6. Okay, so Lennox, as Lennox and Zell continue to back away, Grunhilder, she's got her axe, and she looks at the demon like she's ready to go. And then she looks at the humans who are backing away. She is a dwarf, but she's a chronicler. She's not some kind of, demon slayer out on with the death wish to be killed in battle. So she keeps her axe at the ready, and with a final bellow and belch of smoke and flame, the demon runs off, leaving behind little footsteps of leaving behind a trail of smoldering footsteps, with the occasional piece of grass lighting on fire and quickly burning out. And they sit and they watch with their weapons. Zell is forced to go grab Chauncey because Chauncey did not like that last yell. Zell goes over and he's got Chauncey by the reins, and he's speaking sweet Asleen horse nothings into the horse's ear to calm it down as the demon races off down the wall. In fact, the demon leaps onto the wall, and he's running down the ruins of the wall, leaping over these big gaps in the wall. And occasionally, as he makes a big long leap, fiery wings form from his back, just long enough for him to glide and make the very far jumps. And he's gone. Lennox looks at Zell and looks at the dwarf. I won't tell if you don't tell. She narrows her eyes at him for a moment and then nods. All right, let me take a look. Let's look. Make sure there aren't any kind of weird dwarven traps. Obviously, something trapped him. And he's going to take a look. He's not like a rogue or anything, but he is observant. I don't actually think there's going to be a trap here anyway. I think that if there was one, the demon probably burned it out. But it gives him a chance to use his scouting. No telescope this time though, because it's not a distance check. Okay, so he scans and he looks around. He's got his sword in one hand, and there's enough light pouring in through where the boulders used to be into the tomb below, and he sees nothing. All right, it looks clear. Let's go. They step down inside, and I think in this case, I'm not going to generate like a big tomb or anything. I'm going to say it's just a single chamber. And as they walk in the center of this chamber is a large stone sarcophagus. All of the names, they can tell that there were names on the stone, but all the names look like they've been clawed away and the stone is scorched. There must be some kind of protection on the sarcophagus because all of the other skeletons, there were catacomb shelves for other followers of King Garmar. Is that his name? Let me double check. Matt Garmar. That's close enough. There are other retainers, Huskarls, guardians, whatever, who are buried with him, and all of their bones are scattered throughout the chamber, smashed, crushed. The skulls have been ground into dust. But for whatever reason, whatever magic, the demon, who knows how long he was there, it was a long time ago. If he was trapped in there at the time everything was put in there, I don't suspect that's probably what happened, though. If they would not they would not bury a fire demon in there with him, so he probably got summoned in there somehow. I don't know, maybe a spell went bad, who knows. Certainly Lennox doesn't know, and he doesn't care, more importantly. So they immediately go looking for the treasure to see what they can find. So first off, as we are going back to our Book of Beasts, there is for the monsters, there's an oracle to see if they have anything besides what's normally on there. Right here, the loot table. Let's go ahead and draw. Let's go ahead and draw a loot card. Whoops, not deal. Just want to pick one. Ah. All right, two of clubs. So nothing there. The demon himself didn't have anything that he left behind, which makes sense. He's a demon. He doesn't have pockets, and all he really needs is his big flaming claws. But it is the tome of a king, so I think we'll go back to our Game Master's Guide, and we'll come up with, we'll make a roll for treasure. I'll decide what kind of treasure he has. Obviously, he was a king. He's been buried there for a long time. So should be something pretty good. All right, so if we come back over here to our Game Master's Guide, page 186, Treasure and Finds. See, Precious Finds. It's not quite a layer, but Right. So I decided to, I forgot to record, but I decided to draw a card, Jack of Clubs, to kind of decide what level of treasure might actually be there. Because even though it is a king's tomb, as I was thinking about it, it's really more of a war site, right? It's not like it was his palace or anything like that. But I think that a Jack of Clubs, I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to give one roll on carried precious finds, and then one for precious finds in lair. Four for precious carried, and then 3-1 for the other. 4 for precious carried is a fur cloak with expensive embroidery and golden buckle. All right. I believe probably that the fur cloak part probably gone, and mostly it's just going to be a golden buckle. So golden buckle, and what was the other? A 3-1. And some gold. And he's not super disappointed with that. There are some old dwarven weapons, but nothing I think that is immediately useful, or at least better than what he has. He has a decent broadsword that has served him well. All right, so golden buckle worth 6 dice 6. And I'll just roll these. All right, so 10, 16, 17. So golden buckle or 17. So I think I'll just put that under notes. And I'll put it under gear. Golden buckle. 17. Oh, silver. Yeah. And that thing's going to be nothing. No weight. And then, oh, and the other, whoops. And the other thing was gold. Die 6 gold, 2 die 6 silver, and 4 die 6 copper. All right, so D6, 2d6, and 4 die 6. All right, so D6 gold. Well, that's good. That's 5 gold. That's a good roll. 2d6 silver. And then 4 die 6 copper. All right, so they spend about 15, 20 minutes. They're looking around, and they themselves, even though they are very interested in finding wealth, they're not that interested in disturbing dead dwarven kings, especially in a tomb that's been haunted by fire demons for who knows how long. So they carefully gather up the treasure from the detritus on the ground, sweeping and pulling. Find Lennox finds the rotted, slashed, burned cloak, but sees the gold buckle on it, takes it, and they find handfuls of coins scattered throughout the room that had probably been laying with the lane had been put with the bodies of the dwarven warriors of the retinue, whoever they were, possibly fallen warriors at this that died with the king, that got an honorable burial place with him. And while they're doing this, Grunhilder she's occasionally casting an eye at them to make sure that they're not getting too crazy, right? That they're not openly desecrating or being disrespectful. So they will look for a place to make camp and call that good. We've hit that about an hour mark, so good time to finish up after two full sessions. They've made 2 complete hexes, but they've had some good adventures, and really, isn't that what the hex crawl is all about? Today, I think what they're going to decide to do, instead of kind of splitting up, Zell's going to make camp, and Lennox is going to keep watch. All right, so Zell's going to make camp. They have that tent, so that gives them a +2, if I remember correctly. Yeah, +2. Let me update that. +2 to make camp. Survival. And then 2 dice for the tent. All right, there's a success. So he makes a good tent, or he makes a good camp, and I think we're just gonna let the night go by. Although they are gonna have to eat and drink. Oops. All right, so he went through some of his water. Not food. And food and water. All right, so they settle down and hobble the horse, tie him close by, and they kind of use him to help keep watch while they're sleeping, listening for him to nicker or get upset. They set up the camp. They set up the tent, roll underneath, kind of share the blanket and their cloaks. Oh, and there was another +1 for camp because of the weather. I forgot that, but they made their camp roll anyway. They set up camp and have a good night's sleep. Waiting in the morning for the new adventures, which will be for next session. So thank you for coming along, listening through. After I'm done with this, I will go and update the adventure journal, which actually I think I forgot to do last time. But, oh, did I? No, I didn't. But I need to update day 2 record all the great adventures, and we will see you guys next time. Happy gaming.